am Joni Cannell, president of SCP, and we've got our T&D committee. Daniel, he just went off. Oganyemi, he's our host too um, for the town hall and for the Zooms, and so we really appreciate that. And we have a whole bunch of people here today. We have some community, and the domain leads, and we'll get to some announcements right after the speaker. But I'd like to put things in the chat right now for announcements that are going on. And I want to say thank you to the education domain, who is our host. I mean, along with Daniel, part of the education domain, who hosts the town halls. The idea here of the town hall is to have a combination of an educational event with community building, and it's open for free to anyone, not just members. So this is our free offering. We also offer a lot of CE credited education through the education domain. Now we'll get to that shortly. I'd like to start by introducing our speaker today. Luciana Simeon is, I don't know, a colleague, somebody I've known for a little while now. She is a very well-educated person. She has a JD, an MBA, and she's also going for her doctorate in organizational behavior at Claremont Graduate University. Her dissertation is focusing on the impact of AI-mediated emotional labor on fairness and legitimacy in organizations. You can see she's combining all of this education here together. She's also a fellow researcher and manager of the Justice and Organizational Behavior Lab and leads the Applied AI Research Program at California State University San Marcos's College of Business Administration AI Hub. So today, she'll share some theory, evidence, and practical tools for advising clients on ethical AI. So let's all take, a warm welcome for Luciana.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Johnny, really appreciate your warm introduction, and I'm really happy to be here today. Please let me know, like, if at any point you hear any noise, because I just adopted a puppy, and the puppy is pretty active and it's like currently chewing. So hopefully he will not disturb our meeting. But if so, I'll make sure to move him in another room. Hey, so first of all, thank you again. This is an honor to be here and discuss about the topic that I'm so passionate about. And again, AI now it affects like all layers of human interaction. And I'm happy and blessed to have had the opportunity to engage in research and studies and observation in all these fields like management, legal practices, as well as business administration, because it gives me a global perspective of what's happening and how we can create better, healthier workplaces for everyone, and how we can, as consultants, of course, help improve the process, I would say, and make it a little bit smoother for everyone. So again, what I want to discuss today is about what happens to the employment relationship when artificial intelligence becomes part of how organizations hire, evaluate, even coach or monitor, and even when they support employees, right? Because I think this is very interesting, and it's these are one of the most relevant, timely, stringent aspects right now, questions that we as organizational or consultant psychologists we should focus on. Of course, as consultant psychologists, we rarely get called because an algorithm isn't technically accurate enough. We get called because people are struggling with change generally, right? Or because leaders are trying to build trust, or employees feel unheard, teams are experiencing uncertainty. And that's why I think organizations um, consulting psychology again has an important role to play in the future of AI. So tonight I'll like to share what research across psychology, organizational psychology, management, information systems, it's beginning to tell us, and how those findings connect to my own research on organizational justice and AI-mediated emotional labor. But more importantly, I'd like us to think together about how we can help organizations implement AI in ways that strengthen rather than weaken trust, fairness, and employee well-being. Because I would say ultimately this talk, it's not about artificial intelligence, it's about people, and it's about ensuring that as organizations become increasingly intelligent, they also remain deeply human. That's my main goal in everything I do. So when I consult leaders on AI implementation, I start asking them about a simple question. If they would be in this role as an employee, imagine they work, or like if you want, you can even engage with me in this experiment and imagine you are an employee. You've worked for an organization for 5, 6 years, a very long period, and your performance reviews have been consistently strong. You've taken additional responsibilities, mentor colleagues, maybe even stayed late for projects that needed to be finished. And then when a management position opens, you apply, you're super excited and you believe you're qualified, but then you received a very dry message or a thank you letter for your interest, letting you know that the organization decided to move forward with another candidate. And that happens very, very often. No explanation, no opportunity to ask questions, just an automated email, right? And the first thing that comes to anyone's mind in this position is like why, right? What happened? Was I even seriously considered? Was that decision fair? Did anyone actually know who I am and notice what I've done in the company so far? So almost nobody's first question would be, I wonder what machine learning model they used when they evaluated my performance, right? It's not about the algorithm, it's not the model that they use, it's about whether they've been treated with respect, with whether trust exists, whether actually anyone will listen. And that's why I believe us as consultant psychologists belong in this conversation. Because while organizations mostly focus on whether AI makes better decisions, employees are asking whether AI creates better workplaces. And those are very different questions. And I would say understanding the difference in it's where our work begins. So let's zoom out for a moment from this scenario that we just discussed, and which I would say isn't hypothetical anymore. It's already happening in organizations around the world. And I would say artificial intelligence as well is no longer something organizations are experimenting with. It's becoming a part of everyday infrastructure at work. And what's interesting is that many employees don't even realize that AI has shaped the decision until after the decision has already been made. We have algorithms influencing who gets interviewed, which resume makes it to a hiring manager, who's identified as a high potential, also how productivity is monitored, what performance rating says, right, depending on models we're using and how the model are trained. So increasingly, even how organizations provide coaching, well-being resources, or emotional support after difficult customer interaction is shaped nowadays by AI. And none of these systems necessarily make the final decision on their own, right? In many organizations, a human is still in the loop, but AI, it's increasingly shaping, I would say, the information that humans see, the recommendations they receive, and the options they consider. So AI is becoming part of the employment relationship itself. And that is a major change that we are experiencing nowadays because traditionally employees build their relationship with an organization through interactions with other people, right? Their manager, recruiter, HR business partner, maybe their mentor or coach. And now those interactions are increasingly mediated by technology, which can be something very beneficial, right? It saves time and is sometimes so convenient, but also it creates new risks, right? And either way, it changes how employees experience the organization because when AI influences these moments, employees are not evaluating a new technology anymore, as I provided you, as I illustrated in example, prior example. They are actually evaluating the organization behind the technology. And this is where I'm trying to convince leaders that it's not about or just about the technology that they are implementing. It's about how they are implementing, the type of support that they are offering, the level of trust that they maintain while implementing the new technology. Because employees will ask, can I trust this? Was I treated fairly? Does this organization still see me as a person? And those are psychological questions. Although we talk about AI adoption, AI implementation, and so on, we are talking about psychological questions that shape trust, engagement, commitment, and down the road, well-being. And that's why I'm always saying that AI hasn't simply changed how work gets done. It's also changing how employees experience work. And that, of course, changes the role of consulting psychologists as well, right? Which brings us to what I think is the central question of today's discussion. When organizations implement AI, why or what exactly are they trying to optimize? Or what are they measuring? And then on the other side, what are employees actually evaluating? And we see organizations, when I talk to leaders, executive leaders, they buy AI for efficiency, for consistency, speed, cost. And then on the other side of the problem, employees evaluate the same technology, asking, was it fair? Can it be trusted? Does it actually listen? And what does this new technology tell about the organization itself? So the organization and the employees aren't using the same scorecards. And some of you might already have clients using AI to screen applications. Others may be helping leaders implement AI-supported performance reviews or coaching tools. And whether they're aware of it or not, they're redesigning the employee's experience. Basically, in organizational behavior, we often say that every policy communicates something about what an organization values. And I would say that today, every AI system communicates something as well. Whether intentionally or not, it sends messages about transparency, respect, and whose voices matter. So now that if AI is becoming part of the employment relationship, the next question would be, who should be involved in designing these systems, right? Where consulting psychology fits. The answer, of course, it's many different people, because I would say successful AI implementation isn't just a technical challenge, it's more of an organizational challenge, as I mentioned before. And ultimately, I would say it's a human challenge. I like to think about the implementation as happening across three interconnected layers. And starting at the top, we have technology with engineers, computer scientists, and data scientists asking questions like, can we build a system that works? Then we have the second layer, moving to organizational level, where leaders operate, right? Executives, HR leaders, operational leaders, and they are focused on improving the organization. Will I increase efficiency, reduce cost, improve quality? But then we reach the third layer, people. And this is where consulting enters the conversation. And I will argue that this layer is often the least discussed, perhaps the most important, but unfortunately the least discussed. We in this space ask different questions. We talk about whether the employee will trust the system, whether it will strengthen or weaken psychological safety, whether it will reinforce belonging or rather create distance, whether it will enhance well-being or erode it over time. And again, these are questions that no algorithm can answer. And I would say that if we don't answer these questions, then any technology implementation, say AI implementation, even if it focuses on effectiveness, it might fail badly when it comes to the human aspect. And one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this topic is that I think organizations sometimes assume that if they get layers number 1 and 2 right, then layer number 3 will simply take care of itself. Leaders are like so focused on technology and operations and rarely consider the third layer. But unfortunately, and I'm sure most of you know, that research tells us otherwise, right? The technically excellent AI system can still fail if employees don't understand it and don't trust it. Or a system that works perfectly, an AI system, can still damage engagement if people perceive it as unfair. So we don't compete with engineers, we don't replace executives, we complement them. This is how I generally frame my role, because again, I dealt with executive leaders who were like, why do we need consultants when it comes to people? I just need a consultant on the technological aspect, maybe organizational processes, but we're good. HR can deal with people and that's it. Well, unfortunately, that leads them to financial losses that they later regret. So I would say that we as consultants, right, have the role of understanding how organizational systems are experienced by human beings. And that experience ultimately determines whether AI becomes something employees embrace or simply tolerate. And I was preparing for today, I realized something. When we often hear concerns about AI replacing jobs, including professionals' jobs like ours. And I'm also an attorney, and I hear very often that AI will replace attorneys pretty soon. But the more I study this field, I would say that the more convinced I become of the opposite. AI increases the need for professionals who understand people and relationships and trust and organizational change. And in many ways, it makes us more, not less important. Technology, yes, changes how decisions are made, but we can help understand how those decisions are experienced. And that's why I don't think we, and again, in this, I include many professional roles, will be replaced anytime soon. I was research and see, like, because again, I'm doing all this research around AI and AI and emotional labor, employee well-being. And I started with a long list of studies, and I was like, I'm not going to bore you with all these studies. I'm going to just highlight a couple of directions that I feel the research is trying to set us on. And if recent research started talking about algorithmic management, raising job burnout and perceived threats as conditions for worsening employee well-being. Also talking about anxiety, workplace anxiety, lowering life satisfaction overall. We talk about algorithmic management that depends a lot on how is it experienced, depends a lot upon whether we have organizational support or not. So it's very important to frame AI in the right picture. Because again, if it's appraised as a threat, it hurts engagement. If it's appraised as a challenge, but it's accompanied by strong organizational support, then we might get positive outcomes. And that it's I would say, an actionable lever for consulting psychologists, because we can shape which side of the edge employees land on. On the other side, I would say that since ChatGPT is released, there are been hundreds of studies which examine how employees experienced AI at work. And while the technologies differ across industries and organizations, of course, findings are pretty consistent, and they converge around three core insights, which are the fact that employees evaluate AI through fairness, not necessarily accuracy. Then efficiency, again, doesn't necessarily lead to trust, and it's not protecting well-being automatically either. And then the last and one that I really like a lot, because I'm working on designing ethical AI systems, states that, again, ethics and legitimacy can be intentionally designed. And getting a little bit more into these findings, I would say that we notice more and more that artificial intelligence, it's still judged based on concepts, theories that have been true for decades, right? Organizational fairness, organizational justice, of course, which we all know touches upon distributive justice, procedural, interpersonal, and informational justice. So I would say that artificial intelligence hasn't changed how individuals assess an organization. It simply gives employees a new context in which to ask the same questions we've always asked. So when organizations introduce AI, employees, as I mentioned, they're not necessarily interested in machine learning or algorithm design. They are still asking, am I treated fairly? Am I treated with respect? Am I provided with reasonable explanations, transparency, and so on? So this is really important because what's interesting, and I would say even remarkable, is that these four dimensions were developed long before generative AI started to be used on a scale, right, by public. Yet they still predict very well how people respond to AI today. And we have lots of studies pointing in the same directions. Because organizations spend, I would say, enormous amounts of time and money asking how accurate is our AI, system, I would say that they are overlooking an really important aspect or a question that they should ask, and that is whether the employees are still trusting the organizations that are using that specific AI system. So if employees evaluate AI through the lens of fairness and organizational justice, the next question becomes, does making AI more efficient automatically makes employees trust it more? Intuitively, we might expect the answer to be yes. The research tells a different story. And we have meta-analyses finding no evidence of efficiency being automatically linked to trust. So some of the most efficient AI systems ever built have produced some of the weakest psychological outcomes. And this is exemplified very well by electronic performance monitoring, which increases stress a lot and then decreases trust exponentially. I found this really interesting because, again, I'm working with companies. I'm working on a project right now with Viasat and trying to help them elaborate, improve their AI systems when it comes to marketing. Yeah, they're like, we want everything to happen very fast, very accurate, very efficient, but then they're not asking like, how are people experience the implementation of these new AI systems, which is nice because as an outsider, I would say, I can come and have discussions with both leaders and then followers and understand both sides and bring them together so that everyone understands everyone's challenges and goals. So again, if efficiency doesn't alone create trust, where do the consequences actually show up? And I would say that, again, looking at some research, I found that organizations often don't see the cost immediately, and I see that in practice as well. People don't have talk right away. They don't raise their voice, don't express concerns because, again, they either don't feel safe to talk, they either are afraid of losing their jobs, being the one who brings up the problems, right, in the company. So everything happens later. And the rollout may go smoothly, the technology may work exactly as intended, but again, the real effects emerge later in how employees experience their relationship with organization. So this is another thing that I generally caution leaders about and try to make them aware that they should also involve their subordinates into implementing, into designing their AI systems. And one concept that I find incredibly helpful here is the psychological contract, right? Unlike an employment contract, this refers to the unwritten expectations employees develop about their relationship with the organization. And those, again, expectations shape engagement and ultimately well-being. And now we can talk about AI again because we have these studies telling us today that when people interact with algorithmic agents instead of human decision makers during recruiting, for example, they perceive less relational commitment from the employer. So basically, the technology itself changes what employees believe the organization owes them. And that's big because the organization doesn't say explicitly, right, we care less about you, but employees infer it. And that is, again, an important aspect to consider. And then there are also some considerations that I wanted to bring up about legal and governance implications. Because the second consequence is of AI implementation done not quite right might be that the second consequences might be illegal and strategic as well. And we see a recent case, Mobley versus Workday, where courts allow discrimination claims involving AI-supported hiring systems to proceed. Hey, I'm sorry, I needed to correct this little puppy. So we see cases like this. We also see enforcement actions. We have settlements with iTutor Group involving algorithmic age discrimination. We have the Amazon story, right, with so-called objective hiring standards. These developments tell us something that really matters, and that's the fact that AI is becoming an issue of organizational governance. So there's a point that I don't want us to miss, and it's that while we as leaders or executive leaders in general ask if their AI is legally compliant, employees, again, we should not forget that employees ask whether they can trust the organization that use it. So compliance and trust are not the same thing. You can satisfy every legal requirement and still manage the employment relationship if employees perceive the system as unfair or even lacking accountability. So then my next question would be like, if employees evaluate AI through fairness and its efficiency doesn't build trust, and if AI can reshape the psychological contract, can organizations intentionally design AI systems that people actually experience as fair? Because we see all these challenges. And I would want you, before we get into the answer to that question, I want you to think about a recent AI implementation you observed. And I would like to ask about the biggest challenge of this AI implementation. Was it really the challenge about technology, or was it about communication, leadership, employee expectations? And I can share my perspective based on the companies that I worked with recently. And it wasn't the technology, it was just the way the new technology implementation was communicated. Very poor communication. Funny enough, done with the help of AI, actually eroded trust, eroded interest into implementing AI because employees did not get enough information. They got information that was perceived as unauthentic because they received emails written with ChatGPT or generated by ChatGPT. Also, they were not provided with enough information about expectations regarding the AI implementation. Like, how fast should I know how to use this tool? What if I don't know it? Who will check, right? Who will stay, like what human in the loop will be maintained? Can we raise concerns about this? All these aspects were never clarified, and that led to a lack of interest and disengagement. And it's something that I generally noticed and I generally advise leaders not to do. Don't externalize two things: one, communication, and two, empathy. The moment you stop communicating directly with people, you will lose them. And the moment you start expressing empathy through AI, same thing might happen. These are like two most dangerous things to externalize, I would say. So let me stop here and ask you, like, what's your experience with, if any, of course, if with implementing AI and the challenges around it?
I can share. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, please, Mira.
Um, when early, when an AI chat option became available, within my work environment within the federal government, most people did not use it because we didn't know how the information would be used and who would look at it and whether who would have access to it. And there was no training, there was no information about that at all. And so very few people ended up using it.
Yeah, that's a great observation. Not only not knowing like who will check what I'm doing with my AI model, but there are lots of employees who do not know like how much can I share with my model. Like I'm not quite sure what type of information am I allowed to share or where I cross the line into making available to the public at large information that is protected by intellectual property laws or sensitive people, sensitive information about individuals, right? Their protected data, information, and so on. So yeah, that's another problem because again, if we don't communicate properly, if we don't clarify all these, we'll see people just simply not using it. Yeah, thanks, Mira. Tamara, if I can call
Hi,
you,
sure,
or Dr.
of
Lee,
course.
however you prefer.
Yes. Hi, I'm Tammy. It's good to have you. I can think of a situation where a company, a retail company, added an AI tool to interact with customers who were browsing the catalog online. And there were a lot of expectations about increased sales. But the actual customer service folks were very uneasy about it because they felt like they were taken out of the sales process and that they would
Mhm.
not have a part in that interaction, but would be accountable for sales that were or were not generated by the AI tools. So it was they sort of lost their role or their place without really feeling like a part of the sales process anymore.
Yeah, that's another big challenge
Mhm.
with mixed teams, human and AI teams, which again, the roles can overlap a little bit. And then if there's no strict delimitation for who gets credit for what part of the work it's done by AI versus human, then again, we get all these complications that may again affect trust and commitment, engagement. And it's also very stressful. So it's not just I'm not interested in using it anymore. Some people are very anxious because they're like, I feel this pressure from the company for me start using AI and I don't have time to learn how to use it. And if I don't learn how to use it, I'll probably be the next who's leaving the company. So that creates a lot of anxiety, stress, and unfortunately can lead to burnout, which can, of course, cause more negative effects down the road. Uh, so just a couple of things that also want to share. Again, we have seen employees evaluating AI through fairness, not simply through accuracy. Um, and we also talk about the fact that efficiency alone doesn't automatically create trust. And this is like two explanations or the best explanation that organizational research provides um, are the pragmatic legitimacy and moral legitimacy. Um, organizational organizations generally focus on the question on the left, right? Does it work? Does this AI system serve my interests? Whereas employees generally look at is it the right way to make decisions? Again, was there room for human judgment? Did someone understood my circumstances? Was the process transparent? Um, and that's the key insight. An AI system can be highly accurate, highly efficient, fully compliant with the law, and employees may still reject it if they don't believe the process is fair or deserving of trust. And again, that's the difference between compliance and legitimacy. So if legitimacy can be intentionally designed, right, which we can do, the next question becomes, what should consulting psychologists actually do to help organizations build trust in AI systems? And I'll briefly share how I arrived at this research question. And before I even began to study AI, I was studying something much more human, which is emotional labor. I was interested in what happens when employees are expected to display emotions that don't match what they're actually feeling. More specifically, in my master's thesis, I looked at legal professionals and tried to understand how subordinates who observe their leaders treating customers or clients a little bit unfair, not necessarily the level of discrimination that it's described in regulation, but treating clients unfairly, how these legal professionals feel about it. And what I found was pretty interesting. I found that when leaders treat clients unfairly, employees did not simply fake more, as we would expect, because we would expect them to surface act, meaning to smile right to a client, although they don't feel like, or smile in the presence of that leader who is treating clients unfairly, just to make sure that they maintain that harmony with their supervisor. Now, instead, they engage less in deep acting. So basically, in other words, when employees faced injustice, they protected themselves by disengaging emotionally rather than performing more emotion. And that finding shaped my current research question. And the question is, if a human leader can influence whether employees emotionally engage or disengage, what happens when an AI system starts setting the emotional display rules? Because we have more and more AI applications communicating empathetically. They are we have models that are set up to adapt their language and the output, the verbal output, to the level of emotions that they perceive from the person they are interacting with. And that is the bridge from emotional labor to my current work on AI-mediated empathy, fairness, and employee well-being. And again, preliminary findings in my research show that it's all a matter of trust and support from organizations. And not all it's bad about AI. I want to leave you with a positive example. And I think the best thing for us to do is to leverage the idea that AI doesn't replace human connection. I would say it creates more space for it. And one of the most successful uses of AI isn't replacing people, it's helping them to do what people what only people can do. And we have a couple of case studies from physicians. And physicians are known to complain about burnout. And they generally say that one of the biggest contributors to burnout wasn't patient care, it was documentation, the fact that they have to do a lot of paperwork. So instead of thinking of replacing AI, of replacing physicians with AI, there are lots of healthcare facilities now thinking of how they can give physicians more time to be physicians. And they are using, of course, AI to listen conversations with patients during patient visits, of course, with patient consent, grab clinical notes, and then, of course, lower documentation seems to lower also cognitive load reduce burnout, and of course allow for more time to be spent with patients. So I would say that AI didn't replace empathy in this case, it replaced paperwork. And I think this is a very important distinction. And again, something that we should do to maybe increase interest for AI adoption in a proper fashion. So I thought about, generally thought about things that we can do or what we can advise clients to do when it comes to AI implementation. And this is what I generally encourage organizations and leaders to ask before implementing any AI system that may affect their employees. And the first question is pretty simple, right? What human problem are we actually trying to solve? And sometimes we're so focused on implementing AI that we forget to ask whether it's solving the right problem. And again, technology should serve people, not the way around. Then when employees experience injustice and eventually disengage rather than object, right? People may simply withdraw because again, they might not tell us that they've lost trust, but we have to anticipate, again, areas where they might experience injustice and disengage rather than object. Whether does employee voice exist in the process? Can employees ask questions, challenge decisions? And again, voice, it's one of the strongest predictors of fairness. And then who remains accountable when something goes wrong? Because AI can support decisions, but it shouldn't replace accountability. So someone must remain accountable. And finally, if employees fully understood how this system works, would they trust it more? And if the answer is no, the issue probably isn't transparency, it's the design itself. So based on this question, generally, I can answer the bigger question of whether we can implement AI in a way that strengthens trust, fairness, and employee well-being. And finally, again, as I mentioned, the biggest two of those five, I would, if I would be to zoom on two, would be build voice into AI-supported decisions and name human accountability. And again, human-centered AI is not a friendlier interface. It should be, again, about trust, autonomy, dignity, and helping people grow. If that is happening, yes. If we cannot run an AI implementation process through these five elements, including supporting healthcare organizations, then I would say we should check again. Because I kept coming back to one simple idea, and that is that artificial intelligence will continue to improve. Models, for sure, they'll become faster and algorithms will be more and more accurate. We already see this. And organizations, for sure, will automate more decisions than ever before. But no matter how advanced the technology becomes, I would say one thing won't change, and I'm pretty sure about that, is the fact that people will continue to look for fairness and to for the company that they work for to provide them with voice, to listen, and to show that they care about them. And again, as consulting psychologists, and I'm gonna wrap up this, I don't think our role is simply to help organizations adopt AI. Our role should be to help them adopt AI without losing their humanity. Because of course, in the end, organizations that I have on this slide won't be remembered for how intelligent their algorithms became. They'll be remembered for how people felt while working there. And I believe that's where consulting psychology has its greatest opportunity, and at the same time, has its greatest responsibility. Well, that was it. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope we still have some time for questions. And of course, I had something prepared for you regarding the technologies between technological capability and human experience emerging in your own work. But if you have any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Questions, discussion points for Luciana?
Yes,
Anne.
Yeah, hi, Luciana. Thank you so much for your presentation today. It was super enlightening. I had a question that I put in chat, which was, I'm just curious, how these interventions get started. What's the client need? What's the ask that they're coming to you for, right? Is it that they're having trouble with engagement? Is it they're having trouble with retaining new talent, reputational changes? Because at least from what I'm seeing, especially with some of the companies that are implementing, they're just in implementation mode. They're not in problem mode yet. And I'd love to think that many do care about their reputation, but as we know, many of them care about their profitalized returns. So I'm just curious, when you're coming in or when you're seeing people, and others might answer this too, because I haven't been called on to do this exact work yet. What's the pain point?
Yeah, I would say the first one is the fact that they are expecting, generally, the business owners that I work with, they are expecting instant return on investment. And that doesn't happen overnight. Yes, the AI system that you're implementing might be efficient, may work, but then there are lots of people who are still afraid of using technology. They have this AI anxiety where they feel that if I start learning it, I will become more and more dependent on AI. We all talk about AI replacing our critical thinking, and I see lots of people actually thinking, oh, if I'll start actually learning how to use and do all my work with AI, I will stop be creative myself. I will stop be productive and so on. Then there are other people who are like, okay, I'm really not interested in AI. I don't feel like it. I've heard lots of things about, like, bad things about AI. It's not safe, it's not secure, it hallucinates and so on. So I don't even want to deal with AI. So I would say, like, the most painful points are, one, AI anxiety, lack of interest in AI, maybe leaders' expectations that if I implement AI, everyone will be so happy about it. And if I'm happy about it, everyone should be happy and interested in it. And again, it will start generating profit right away. Again, those expectations are not necessarily realistic. It might take time. It might be that you picked an AI system that is not necessarily tailored to your needs, and you have to, like, try another system, and then you have to convince your employees that they have now to transition to another system. So that's another layer of challenges, I would say. When it comes to reputational, oh my God, that is like, we have lots of vendors who, like, promised, the moon and the sea with their AI systems that unfortunately did not deliver. And when things happened, the organizations were like, it's the vendor's issue, where it's not necessarily the vendor's issue, because you partnered with this vendor, you agree to their terms, and you are using and exposing clients to that system. So it's your liability as well. So yeah, we see all these challenges, unfortunately, but people are learning more and more about AI, and I don't see that same level of excitement as before. I feel like more companies are now more calculated and more informed when it comes to adopting and implementing AI. I hope that's answered.
Luciana,
I have, like, so many things.
Thank you.
This is really interesting, and unfortunately, we're at the table of the other questions, maybe you can stay on a little bit later. I just want to make sure to also honor my promise of giving the domain leads an opportunity to announce anything that's coming up. But let's give, I mean, maybe you can unmute for a second and do actual or just do a virtual applause for Lucerne for her.
Thank you so much. And feel free to reach out if we can continue the discussion if you're interested in. And I know Bernardo had a question, so hopefully we can address that question before we leave.
Yeah, well, let's just make sure that Mira, I think, had a couple things, and Ryan also had an announcement from the other domain there. So, Mira, why don't you jump in for a sec?
Oh, no, just very quickly, if you scroll up to the top of the chat, and Daniel could also repaste it if you came later, but July 8th is our next next part of the 4-part series within psychology and the business of behavior. It's with Rob Kaiser. He's going to be talking about assessments. Every single one of these are awesome. If you missed the last one, you could get it on demand. So this is the next opportunity to come. And and just make sure that you are registered with TPN Health to be able to access it. We can help, though, if you have any trouble.
Daniel, do you want to mention Ryan's announcement? It's a big one.
Yeah,
If
sure, I
not, I
can do
can.
that.
Yeah, go for it.
The advocacy domain has been featured, been selected to be on the featured stage for APA in August, and are doing a session breaking into consulting, real world insights for success. I believe both Ryan and Dr. P are doing sessions, or have a slot during that time.
That's true. And if you're going to APA, it'd be great to show your support. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Ryan or get on the website. We have info about it. But hopefully, we're going to get consulting psychology a lot of attention at APA. So let's jump back to Luciana. If anyone wants to stick around and ask a couple more questions, if you have to leave, we understand. Thank you again for coming. And thank you, Luciana. If Bernardo has a second, maybe we can continue.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you so much, Luciana. That was really interesting. Lots of very provocative. I'm glad you're doing this work and raising these questions. They're so important. So I hope you can keep doing that. I'm sure there'll be lots of work for you going forward. My question is, when we talk about AI is not one thing. It's so many things. And so I'm curious what kinds of things you're particularly thinking about. You gave one example of physicians taking notes, which is interesting because my own experience is when I see notes that are just templates, they're wrong half the time. And, they add all this stuff that they didn't really do, but that's a separate issue. Well, I have lots of things swirling, but I'll just focus on that, which is what kinds of AI implementations or uses are you thinking about, or what are a couple of examples of ones that work well in terms that using the terms you're talking about in terms of how people take it in? Because when I see like coaching clients or whatever, or other clients, they have things available to them, like Copilot or whatever. That's one thing, right? That you can use in your everyday work, and then people have to do that. But it's another thing when you're talking about these enterprise-wide systems for dealing with customers, or where the customers have to deal with a, AI chat, and it takes forever to get to like a real person, and then they come in frustrated and are dealing with employees, who have to bear the brunt of the emotional frustration, which I'm one of these people that will come in and go, ah. So what are you talking about? Maybe you can give us a flavor for the kinds of things, and especially the ones that work well.
Yeah, systems are improving, and of course, you are talking like even when we are recording the meeting, right? When we take a look at notes, those notes are not great yet. Hopefully, I will get there, but no, not yet. Human oversight is really important. Yeah, I dealt with that, and also the chatbots frustration. That's why I'm like I'm looking right now as I'm like doing marketing research as well around AI and how interaction with empathetic AI chatbots versus less empathetic AI chatbots would increase customer satisfaction and down their own loyalty. And I'm implementing that. Hopefully, I'm in discussions with Viasat to implement the chatbot that we developed with their company and see customers' reactions. So far, like talking and collecting data for a similar study, lots of people are very frustrated with AI chatbots. Again, that's why in this case, and also like notes taking in healthcare, also in consulting, like also like mental health consulting, which for me, again, that was a little bit of like, okay, yes, it's similar to healthcare, but are we really willing to ask someone's permission to disclose information about their mental health? It seems that clinical psychologists also use AI tools to take notes on during those conversations. Human oversight, it's my answer. Systems might not be perfect right now, and that's why we have to keep humans in the loop. We keep aiming for high efficiency, automating workflows, automating everything. But unless we have someone overseeing those notes, making sure that they are accurate, we will see errors, unfortunately. And that it's a huge liability issue. It's not just the fact that we're not effective, right? That the doctor, maybe my AI system will not take the proper notes, and that might affect, right, the way I'm prescribing treatment plan, right? So might have consequences. And I think it's, again, it leaves a door open for lots of liability. More and more companies are becoming aware about, again, human oversight's importance. And we're seeing these mixed joint human and AI systems, or like teams that leaders now have to manage. That's another challenge that leaders need to adapt to, having to manage human AI teams.
Thanks.
Yeah. I've seen also like cases besides healthcare, there are also like transportation and communications where AI tools seem to, and also marketing research, marketing intelligence and strategy. The type of project that I'm working with Viasat, it seems that we are able to create the company's own AI agents within Copilot, so the enterprise level AI, that work pretty accurately because they were trained based on the information that the intelligence and strategy team used to model the system. So again, it's still a need for human in the process.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's really interesting to combine your psychology and legal backgrounds as well as the business. I mean, I talk to lawyers about this, and they really do have a different perspective, and bringing it together is really useful. Thank you.
Like so many unfortunate instances where attorneys used AI to draft court briefs, legal documents, and never ever used human oversight, and went to court with citations completely made up by AI. So AI came with case studies and everything. They are non-existent. And we have like recent cases where attorneys were fined 2000K because of this, even if they were the ones who flagged out lately, hey, we realized that we actually sent this to court. And although like 3 paralegals looked over it, we didn't realize that those are hallucinations. I don't think anyone ever looked at those documents before them being filed with the court, honestly. Because if you would use paralegals, they would be able to do proper legal research and determine that those were hallucinations. But even when the attorney admitted their own wrong, consequences were pretty nasty.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
thank you. Thank
we
you.
have to be
Thank you.
aware of our own liabilities.
Yeah.
Well, Luciana, you obviously captured the attention of a lot of people today. Everyone was really interested and stayed, for the whole thing and gave some really good feedback. It's just very kind of you to speak to us. Thank you. I mean, if you want to stay more involved with SCP as well, we're having our conference in San Diego, which is not too far for you. So I don't know if you're thinking about submitting anything or.
Still time, right?
Yeah,
When's the
there is
deadline?
still time. Yeah.
August?
Thank
Is
you
it
so
August?
much.
August, yeah.
Yeah.
But this was really informative, and just, yeah, great to just combine all those different perspectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me, and really appreciate the discussion. I wish I could have kept it a little bit shorter. I thought that I'm gonna speak a little bit faster so that I can learn also from
Yeah.
from everyone participating. But hopefully, I will continue the discussion and.